Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
This is UMAR for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. I'm joined by Adam Smith after a huge night for British boxing, world boxing. Anthony Joshua keeps his world titles. That's the main thing heading into next year. But what do you make of his performance, Adam?
I thought it was a really good performance. I think what I was hoping for beforehand was a sort of mixture of what he'd learnt during this year in lockdown and in the gym. Obviously, you know, before the rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr., he added to his team, and you know, Rob McCracken, the captain, but obviously he brought in Joby Clayton and Angel Fernandez, and you know, he boxed to a beautiful plan out in Saudi Arabia. He executed it perfectly. You know, he had to get the win. It wasn't exciting, but it was exactly what he needed to do. And I was hoping that we'd see a little bit more from him on Saturday night. I'd been up to watch him spar, so I was very impressed with the sort of rhythm he was finding with his shots, the different variety, the punch selection. And I thought that, you know, ideally beforehand, you know, for a performance, I wanted to see that also mixed with a bit of that old spite, a bit of the power. And I think we got both. So, you know, there'll be people who say he should have finished Pulev off after 3 or 4 rounds, you know, when he had him in trouble. But I think he utilised the rounds actually to sort of try a few things out. And I thought his jab to the body was excellent. I thought his uppercuts were fantastic. I thought his distance and range, and obviously, you know, his finishing power. It was a very, very good performance from Anthony Joshua. Again, under pressure, not quite under the pressure that he was on out in the desert before Christmas last year, because obviously, you know, a loss there again to Ruiz would have been traumatic. But he still was, you know, it's the world heavyweight title. Kubrat Pulev was a big underdog, but you know, he impressed me all last week. I thought he was, you know, very, very sort of relaxed in the bubble. He looked really fit. He just looked like he wanted to come and give everything, and that's exactly what he did. So I thought it was, from that point of view, you know, Pulev gave, you know, beyond the call in bravery. He was so stubborn, so resistant, and you know, lively all the way through. And while he wasn't winning rounds and he was outclassed by Joshua, he played his part, and he can go back to Bulgaria with his head held high. What a chin he showed, and I think Anthony Joshua was excellent. You know, he really did sort of showcase what he'd learnt. And then gave us the finish, gave everybody the finish that they wanted to see, and proved that, you know, he's got the power to knock out any heavyweight in the world. So I know Tyson was impressed with the performance, not so much the post-fight interview, but I know he was impressed with the performance, and so he should be. And I think it was excellent. And once again, with all the pressure that's on AJ's shoulders, he delivers time and time again. You know, the resume is very good over the last sort of 2 or 3 years. You know, he's fought everybody, and you know, only it's Tyson Fury sort of out there. Deontay Wilder, you know, that fight may still happen down the line. Obviously, Alexander Usyk is knocking on the door, but he keeps, you know, completing the task, doesn't he? He completes doing what he says. He said he was going to be the last man standing again. You know, I think he's learned a lot from, you know, the carnage out of New York a year and a half ago. I think he's learned that he wants to implement his camps more like Lennox Lewis used to, more like Vladimir Klitschko used to, sort of be in control. And sort of, you know, there's a little bit of spite to him now. And I think, you know, he still, you know, adores the sort of stage and the fans and that. But I think it is about him, and it's about what he wants to do now. And I think that's, at 31, I think that's a mature attitude. It's a very, very tough game, and I thought he was excellent on Saturday night, and fantastic to have the fans back. UMAR, 1,000 fans. It felt like there were 5,000 or 10,000 in there. It was absolutely brilliant, and we've really missed that. And I think that, you know, they and everybody at home got a real show on Saturday, and that's what we intended. And well done to Anthony Joshua for retaining his titles in emphatic fashion.
Adam, in your opinion, And what did Matthew also say about this in the third round when Pulev turned his back? Should the fight have been stopped?
You know, it was close. I mean, it was very close to being stopped then, wasn't it? You know, the third round, there's something about the third round with AJ, isn't there? And, you know, it was another dramatic session. And, you know, yeah, it could have been. But I think that, you know, Pulev just continued to show so much resilience and resistance that in many ways it was great that it went on, because it gave him, you know, more of a challenge, you know, even in that sort of sixth and seventh, when, you know, there's a couple of punches that were getting through. And, you know, you do sort of wonder, because, you know, he has been hurt by Dillian. He was obviously floored by Klitschko, got up to win that epic. And, you know, then he was down several times against Andy Ruiz. So you do, you know, sort of question whether there is that still slight air of vulnerability, whether, you know, he's just a little reticent about taking the punches that, you know, that maybe he has before. And maybe that's why he elects to box a bit more. But, you know, that's what Lennox Lewis did. You know, that's what Vladimir Klitschko did. It's the old Emmanuel Stewart way. And you know, that sort of, you know, the doing what you have to do in there and preserving. And I think with Anthony, you know, as I said, the time I spent with him before the fight, I just sort of felt that this is a work in progress. This is somebody that wants to, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. You know, it took Lennox a long time. It took Vladimir a long time. And, you know, Vladimir was, you know, destroyed at times in his early part of his career. Corey Sanders, you know, had him down and out very quickly. And I think he was, you know, knocked down 11 times or something. And suddenly then he wasn't for many, many years until AJ knocked him down at Wembley, you know, and obviously Fury beat him on that great night as well. But, you know, Vladimir learned a style that was right for him. Lennox did as well. He mixed up sort of skills and power. And while we can't really compare Anthony Joshua, obviously, to our greatest heavyweight, Lennox Lewis, yet, you know, if he beats Fury and goes on, then obviously we will. But, you know, Lennox had a great career, but it wasn't overnight. You know, he lost to Oliver McCall, and it took time for him to sort of, you know, get back he did. And you know, exacted revenge on both Oliver McCall and later on in his career on Hasim Rahman. So, you know, it is a work in progress. And I think that, you know, I think if it had been stopped in the third round, which it could have been, I mean, he was in big trouble. And when he turned his back, you know, the referee could have stepped in. But I think it was good for everybody, including Pulev, that it went on, because we got to see a bit more of Joshua. And we still got the finish that, you know, that people were crying out for. You know, he hadn't had a knockout win since Alexander Povetkin. You know, he'd been on the road. You know, he'd had the defeat to Ruiz, the points victory, and, you know, it's a long time to go without a knockout, especially when, you know, one of the main assets to Anthony Joshua is that power, and is that, you know, the way he can finish a fight. You know, because a lot of people are fancying Tyson Fury to beat him, and I think, you know, on that performance, you can see that when he does land and when he connects, you know, he's as dangerous as anyone in the world. Yes, maybe not the single power that Deontay Wilder has with that right hand, but he can knock anyone out. And, you know, Tyson Fury's got to be very, very careful about that. You know, Fury, obviously, we know he can box beautifully and will start, I'm sure, a slight favourite in that fight. And there's many people that back Tyson Fury to win. But I think probably, you know, people would have watched Saturday night and there would have been some opinions changing. And, you know, one thing that Anthony Joshua's got, well, he's got a lot of assets to his arsenal, but I thought he showed improvements as a fighter. I thought he showed the same power and the same predatory finish. You know, he's a very dangerous heavyweight, you know, and arguably the number one in the world. You know, we won't know that until they share a ring together. You know, people will be split on that. Some will think AJ, some will think Tyson Fury. And, you know, we don't know until they fight. You know, Tyson Fury has the brilliant win over Deontay Wilder, and obviously that great win over Vladimir Klitschko. But as Eddie keeps pointing out, the resume of Joshua over, you know, since Charles Martin has been pretty tough fights and pretty sort of high level fights all the way through. So, you know, that argument's going to rage and rage. You know, people will think Anthony Joshua has changed some opinions, I think, from Saturday night. Some thought he probably would have beaten Tyson Fury before, but others, I think there's probably a majority that believe Fury will come through that. But I don't know. it's a fight we have to see, and that's the beauty of it. Whether you're in the AJ camp or the Tyson Fury camp, I think we can stand proud that we've got two of the best fighters in recent years, and they stand both as heavyweight champions, and it must lead to an undisputed fight, and I think it will in 2021. When, not quite so sure, but I think it will.
In your honest heart of hearts, are you confident and are Sky confident that fight happens, Adam?
I thought you were going to say, am I confident that Anthony Joshua wins? You know, as I say, when I pick up a mic, it's independence, and we call what we see. And Joshua lost to Tyson to Andy Ruiz. Joshua lost to Ruiz, and although he's our ambassador and very much, you know, we have been with Anthony Joshua all the way from the beginning, and obviously we want him to succeed, and you know, all the rest of it is fantastic for our business. But you know, we want to see what happens in a ring, and we have to remain independent. And I've spoken many times to Tyson Fury this year.
Adam, the question was, are you, in your honest heart of hearts, do you think the fight happened? That was
I'm getting to that, Umar. I think I was going to say that in my heart of hearts, I don't know who wins the fight, but I also think that I think that it will happen. I really do. I went over to Las Vegas earlier in the year because I wanted to be there for the Wilder Fury fight. You know, I know it was covered on BT, but I thought it was important to be out there. I thought we saw one of the great performances from a British fighter, you know, on foreign soil. In many ways, that fight was almost for me like AJ and Klitschko. You know, two great epic sort of performances, and I think there was a feeling then afterwards that, you know, that despite Wilder wanting and evoking the rematch and saying that he would take that, there was a feeling then that Fury and Joshua was nearer than it has been before. And I think over the course of the year, obviously, we've heard a lot of talk in the right direction. I've spoken to both fighters about it. I know they both want it desperately. And when two fighters really want it, and I think maybe that's a problem with some of the big matches that haven't been made in the past, when they both really want it, I think it does tend to happen, and it tends to happen quicker. There are hurdles to get through, of course, as there are with everything. What we can't allow to happen is the Mayweather-Pacquiao situation, where we had, you know, 5 years of waiting around, and when they did fight, it wasn't great, and of course it was a great build-up, but the fight itself didn't sparkle. And I think what we do need, and the world needs, is this fight to happen next year. There are problems, of course, the COVID situation first and foremost. We don't know when full crowds are going to get back. We don't know what the situation in the world will be come spring, summer, and even winter next year just yet. Obviously, the vaccine is hugely positive, but we need to wait and see how everything unfolds. That's one thing. Secondly, obviously, Team Wilder are in litigation with Team Fury, and they want to fight him next. So let's see what happens. Bob Arum seems pretty confident that won't happen, and that Fury could fight Joshua. But you know, I'm sure Shelley Finkel and Team Wilder have other ideas. Let's see what happens there. Let's see what Deontay wants, and let's see if that situation can resolve itself. And of course, the WBO are standing firm. Alexander Usyk will also want that challenge next. So we've heard his promotional team come out and say that is happening and that should happen next. WBO are saying that. So is a lot of money going to change hands? Are there going to be a lot of step-aside money? Or are we going to have to wait for two more sort of semi-finals with Joshua Usyk and Wilder Fury, and then we'll have to wait until the back end of next year? Obviously, the problem with that is that one of them or both could get beaten. So I'd like to see it happen next. I think the world wants it to see it happen next. I'm not sure, Umar, that it will happen next. I'm quietly confident it will, but I'm not 100% sure. You know, I know the noise from the fighters is great. You know, Tyson left me a message yesterday saying that he's going to enjoy his Christmas, and you know, hopefully in January he can push this forwards. And you know, I know that Team Joshua and Eddie Hearn are desperate for it, as all the fight fans in the world are. So there's a lot of love and want to make this fight happen. There are hurdles to overcome. I wouldn't be surprised if it does get made next, but it wouldn't also surprise me if it's not quite yet. What I do think, Umar, is that it will happen in 2021, and I think that's something for the fans to get very excited about.
I think that's a fair enough assessment. That what are the early indicators of the pay-per-view buys, Adam, for Saturday?
Yeah, we're very happy. They were strong. They were good. Anthony Joshua always attracts. You know, it doesn't just attract, obviously, the boxing fans, but the casual fans. And, you know, obviously football's been you know, huge viewing figures for us and been very popular since the return, the Premier League. We had pretty dud City United game just beforehand. But of course, you know, we use those football viewers to obviously, you know, tell them that the fight's on and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of casual interest remains in Anthony Joshua. He's our biggest star in boxing. He's a superstar when it comes to all the attraction of him, not just what he does in the ring, but the amazing stuff he does outside of it as well. And, you know, he's a sponsor's dream, and he's a pin-up, isn't he? So, and of course, it was the first fight he had back in London, albeit in different situations and circumstances since he was over at the stadium over 2 years ago against Alexander Povetkin. So I think there was a lot of interest. Obviously, Pulev was a big underdog, but I think, you know, it's the world heavyweight titles, and, you know, I think we knew during the week that Pulev was going to give a real run for the money, and I think he was great. So yeah, we're pleased with the business side of it, and Anthony Joshua delivers, and Sky Sports box office delivers, UMAR, and you know, we work as a unit. We've got a huge arsenal across the business, arms in Sky One and Sky News and across linear, social, digital, all the platforms. We turn Mix into an AJ channel for the week, just like we've got a darts channel now for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So we know how to sort of build up events, and with our partners Matchroom, they were fantastic. Their operation, their organisation through an incredible Wembley residency on the back of sort of Fight Camp and everything else. I think it's been second to none. I really do. I mean, I've said to you before, I want to praise all the promoters and managers and fighters from around the world that have got back out there and made this happen and made it so successful after lockdown. There's been some really good fights on both sides of the pond, and I think that's a testament to all the broadcasters and the promotional teams. Our friendly rivals at BT, at DAZN, at ESPN, Fox, everything. I think that everybody's tried really hard. We've all been dealt the same cards, but I think I think Eddie and I, we've worked well together, and Matchroom and Sky, the relationship is fantastic, and I think that we've really sort of come together and maybe worked better than we ever have in the last 6 months. So it's been a really good. It's been a terrible time for the world and a horrible period for everybody. But I think it's been a really good effort from everybody to get boxing back. The fact we've had 3 Sky Sports box office events, it's great, and we could have had more. We could have had obviously the rematch with White and Povetkin, but we're going to have that sometime earlier in the new year when Alexander recovers fully from COVID. We still wish him well. It's been he was hit hard by it, but I think he's back in training, and I'm hoping we can get that out sort of maybe the end of February. But we're going to come back with a bang in 2021, and I'm really pleased with the way that everybody's worked so hard to, especially the operational teams, UMAR. It's been very difficult with the social distancing, with the COVID testing, with the rules, and I think that it's been brilliant. The security in the bubble, the planning, Frank Smith and his team. I just think it's been absolutely fantastic, and I mean, I'm delighted that we've managed to get to where we have, and I think we all need a bit of a rest to recharge the batteries. I can't have too much of a rest because I'm heading up to Ali Pali for the darts, which I'm really excited about. But we've got, obviously, we're going to watch with interest with the big fight this weekend with Canelo and Callum. We've got Gennady Golovkin and plenty happening over on DAZN, so we're going to be excitedly sort of tuning into that. But as far as we go, it's a chance for us. We've got a Christmas show to put out, but it's a chance for us just to sort of reflect a little bit, and as I say, we charge the batteries, give everyone a nice Christmas, and come back all raring to go. Because I think, and I'm sure you're with me on this, that 2021, providing that the world sort of balances out and everybody gets back to some sort of normality, could be one of the great boxing years in the last 5 or 6.
Adam, I'm not sure how aware you are of this issue, because it's not really anything to do with you. It's a Virgin Media issue, but I was watching the pay-per-view through a Virgin box. Everyone online who was watching the fight on HD on their Virgin box had the same issue throughout the undercard. Now, I think every other TV company was fine. The pay-per-view was absolutely fine, but it kept pixelating throughout the undercard. It was okay for the main event. Was anyone made aware of this issue on the night?
I heard about it. I was obviously in my commentary box, etc. But I heard that there were some issues with Virgin, and I heard that they were sorted out. So it is the operational technical side. It is a massive sort of backroom staff that are working sort of night and day, from contact centers to, people who are far more technical than me. I mean, that's not one of my strong points, as I think you well know, Umar. But very big apologies to anyone that didn't get that, because obviously, we want to make sure that the box office events are there for everyone to enjoy from start to finish. So it's something that I'm sure, I know was addressed on the night, and I'm sure something that will be addressed in the days afterwards, to make sure that we can eliminate anything like that happening, because you want everyone to have a great experience. You don't want people to worry about pictures or sound or issues like that. But unfortunately, we work in broadcasting, and once in a while these things can come. I remember when we did, I think it was the AJ Takam fight. It might be the AJ Parker fight. It was definitely in Wales, and the generator went, and all the power just dropped on one of the ring walks, or just before one of the big ring walks. I'm not sure if it was Carlos Takam's, but and suddenly everything just goes at ringside, and it just it's like you've got to pick up the sort of spare mic and sort of commentate as though it's on radio. These things unfortunately can happen. We work in a business where there's so much attention made, but there's so much happening, and it's such a huge operation to give that sort of massive feel and the sparkle, and especially if you're in big stadiums and stuff. So occasionally things do go wrong, but obviously we try and eliminate that as much as possible. And we can only apologize if anyone didn't have the experience that they should have done. But I'm glad that it seemed to be sorted on the night, and we move forward, and we obviously learn every time, Umar, whether it's editorial or operational. Every time is a learning experience, and all I do know is that everybody at Sky wants it to be the biggest success it can be for the fans.
It's not really your fault, as you said. It's not Sky's fault. It is a Virgin Media problem, because everyone else was working fine, whatever TV company was watching through. But anyways, let's talk about...
Maybe it's questions for them, or maybe it's our guys to talk to them. I don't know. That's not really my area. But as I said, all I concerned with that everybody watching it had the best experience they could have done. We can't control what happens in the ring. When the fights happen and the bell goes, that's up to the fighters. That's what I've always told our guys at Sky, that we can't control that when the bell rings. And you sometimes you just hope, and then occasionally, like on AJ Klitschko night, when the build up is amazing and you get 90,000 and the fight is as incredible as the whole sort of thing, and it's a win-win. And sometimes it's it's a flat fight, but fortunately on Saturday night we got 9 excellent rounds. It was a really, really thunderous sort of main event. Okay, it was fairly one-sided, and Kubrat Pulev was outclassed, but at the same time he was so brave and so spirited that he really played the part of the story, and it gave us a chance to really analyse Anthony Joshua. I thought Lawrence Okoli sparkled on the undercard as well. I thought he looked fantastic. Hughie Fury, Martin Okoli got the wins, and we can move forward. And I think, as I said, 2021, and it's been difficult with no gate, or as we saw on Saturday, a little gate. It's very, very hard to get the finances to make these fights. And Anthony Joshua was paid a lot of money out in the desert. He wasn't paid nearly as much on Saturday night. None of them were. So it's great that the fighters have got out, and that's the respect that we've got to have, that every level of fighter, whether you're taking a chance at 2 days' notice because someone's failed a test or whatever. I've been so impressed with the fighters that have kept fit, but it's them, it's the pure boxers that have kept this going, and I think it's hats off to the way that they've managed to get through this really, really difficult and turbulent year and come out and performed as well as they have done. It's been fantastic, and I think that sets the sport in good stead for the new year. And I'm hoping that obviously the bigger problem of the grassroots and the amateurs and the gyms and all of that can start flourishing again, because that's a big part that's been, I think, neglected, and the government, and they need to look into that area as well, because we need to move forward all together with boxing. But top level is looking good.
Before we go, I will ask you about Anthony's post-fight interview. It did leave a few puzzled. Some people understood it, saying that he just wanted his moment. Others were like, he should have been screaming for the Fury fight. And obviously Tyson responded himself. What did you make of those kind of videos with AJ and Fury?
Yeah, I mean, it was an odd interview. Andy Scott and I talked about it afterwards. It was a bizarre interview. He wanted to talk to the fans, and then didn't really want to answer many questions. Whether that's the sort of AJ being, you know, more in control, whether it's a sort of part of this sort of new look AJ in a way. You know, he was on a different floor in the bubble. The team kept themselves very much to themselves. You know, we saw them at the media events, obviously with the weigh-in and what happened there. But, you know, he chose not to show us anything in the media workout. You know, it was Klitschko-esque, it was Lewis-esque, it was wrapping their hands, and then we were all taken out and they trained behind closed doors. And I felt that was sort of the flow to the night. You know, there were some oddities in the night. You know, when I got the message about Floyd, I knew Floyd Mayweather might be coming, and then sort of got the message from AJ's team, from KD, that he was, and, you know, and that was obviously and then there was a few things that sort of, you know, just keep, as always with boxing, I'll keep us on our toes, the unpredictable. And I think it was a bit of an unpredictable interview afterwards. You know, it wasn't that sort of normal sort of really happy with his performance, happy with, you know, I want Tyson Fury next. I think it was more sort of controlled. I don't think he really wanted to be there. I think he wanted to sort of do that, get back to his dressing room, get back to that team. I think maybe because, you know, he's learned from what happened in New York. You know, there was a lot of criticism afterwards, a lot of people asking about conspiracy theories, a lot of people on his back, and he probably just sort of dusted himself down and thought, you know what, I'm doing this for me now, and I'm doing this for those close to me, and I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't think he had to say, I want Tyson Fury. You know, I think we know he wants Fury, and I think we know he wants that extra belt, and I think that's a problem with the WBO, because I think he wants the belt as well as wanting Tyson Fury. But I've talked to Anthony, you know, many times off the record, and I've talked to Tyson many times off the record, and the two of them want this fight. So let's not in any way be under any illusion that these two fighters want to meet in 2021. If we can get through the hurdles and the politics, and that's over to Eddie and to Frank and to Bob to sort out. That's not my, you know, there's, you know, sometimes I get a call and it's like, well, why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they do that? And maybe I can sort of, you know, possibly help sort of smooth over one or two things. You know, I remember the Usyk Chisora fight was very difficult to make, and, you know, and David and Derek run to me and said, well, is there anything we can do? And yeah, so there is a way that, you know, that we can sort of, I guess, help sort of, you know, try and move things along, or maybe smooth certain areas. But ultimately, it's not our job. Our job is not to make fights. Our job is to ask Eddie to make the best fights, and then he says to us, we've made this, and this is how we go forward. So, but, you know, obviously we talk at great length, and we are, you know, we are involved to a degree, of course, because we're the broadcaster, but they make the fight. So it's up to them to go and do that now. But what I do know is that we want it. I know that the fighters want it. I know that the fans want it. There's a lot of people that want it, Umar. So, you know, over to them to deal with the politics and the hurdles, and let's get Fury and Joshua, Joshua and Fury, Fury and Joshua, Joshua and Fury, however you want to look at it. Whoever you think's number one or number two, it doesn't matter really, does it? We've got the two great heavyweights. At the moment, maybe it's swung back to Anthony Joshua. He's the one in the news. He's the one that even Tyson's saying, that was a great performance. You know, I mean, he was on the interview, and I knew he would be afterwards. You know, we asked him if he wanted to come, and he said, look, why would I come down with Antis doesn't come to my fights? And I understood that. And there he was in his Christmas jumper, giving us great lines afterwards. And listen, we know what he's going to do, Tyson. He's great. He's a fantastic character. He's had an amazing year. You know, what a wonderful performance back in February. And you know, he believes he's going to knock out Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua believes he'll beat Tyson Fury. Eddie Hearn believes one thing, Frank Warren, Bob Arum believe another. Isn't that the beauty of boxing? That unpredictability that we don't know, and we won't know until they meet. So let's get it on. Let's get this 2-fight deal made. Over to them. They're working behind the scenes. As Eddie said, let's talk more action. And I think that was what it was. That was what the interview was about. Let's talk more action. Let's see what happens. Anthony deserves a lovely rest over Christmas. Tyson's told me he's going to have a lovely rest over Christmas. Let's see where we are in January. But I'm telling you, Umar, 2021 will be massive if this fight can be made. I think there'll be two of them. Whether it's going to happen in the first half of the year or the second half of the year is down to the litigation, to the Usyk situation. But there's an old saying that money talks. There is so much money in this fight, in this pot, for Joshua and Fury, that maybe that can help smooth the other little hurdles and obstacles that need to be dealt with. But they're proud fighters, aren't they? Deontay Wilder, Alexander Usyk, and they'll do everything that they can to have their say and push their cause. And their promotional teams, rightfully so, will do as well. I just hope the WBO is sensible here as well. We want to see an undisputed heavyweight championship. We want to see all the belts on the line if possible. We'd see the fight without any belts, but wouldn't it be great if all the belts were on the line and the world just stopped, traffic stopped, and that everybody around the world was fixated on our best fighters, two British heavyweights who have charted different paths, who have different personalities, who have different fan bases, but they're British. They're ours. And it's a time to celebrate that. And it's a time to get them in the ring together. We can't wait for that build-up. You know, the fun we're going to have with it all. The world will be on us. The eyes of the world will be on us, on boxing, on our sport, on the ultimate prize in sport. And we'll find out who the very best heavyweight on the planet is. And it's going to be one of our two Brits. And I think that's something to really go into Christmas and think, yeah, okay, let's enjoy it. Let's have a bit of downtime. It's been a horrible year. Let's keep close to our families as we can, respect the government's regulations and all the rest of it, but have a good Christmas, as good as we can. And 2021, fingers and toes crossed, Umar, that we get this fight, because the world needs it and the time to make it is now.
Absolutely. On that note, we'll end there. Adam, thank you very much for your time. Have a great Christmas. And yeah, we'll speak soon, all right?
Cheers, Umar. Take care, my friend.
Cheers, Adam. Thank you.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.